Hey, hello there, and welcome back to another tutorial. So this is the tutorial where I share the knowledge with you. I'm very result-oriented person where I like to share the maximum knowledge with you so that you can apply it, you can get that satisfaction of learning something new, and you can practically apply it. Okay, so today we'll learn about Angular components, what they are and what is their significance, and I will explain the things from the point of view of very beginner. So, what are the Angular components? So, Angular components are nothing but they are the building blocks of your application. They are very smallest decomposable units of your application, and they represent the various aspects of your user interaction, your user experience. So, to put it in a very simple words, I will say if I have to give an analogy, if you imagine your application as an house, your components are the bricks that forms that house, the bricks that builds that house. So it is the smallest unit of your application that you can use to build any feature, any UI. As per the Angular documentation, it says that Angular components are the a subset of directives that has the template associated with it. Now, what is a directive? This is a little bit advanced and we'll try to understand what the directive is, but technically speaking from the documentation, this is what they say. So yeah, Angular components they represents the metadata. The metadata in the object. I will quickly jump to a component and I will show you. So they have one decorator, namely at the red component, and that decorator represents some metadata into it, and that is an object that tells about the components. Then they have the template associated with it, and they also have the behavior. They control the behavior of the UI, and that's why they also need to have an life cycle associated with them. So I'll talk about this all. So let me go through each. So as you can see, this is my one component that I have, and it has at the rate component. Now this at the rate is my decorator. In a normal languaging paradigm, we call this as an annotation because it represents a metadata. So similar goes here. Here we have the metadata about this class, which is app component, where it is telling this is the selector, this is my template URL, style URLs, and blah blah other things. Okay, so let's break it down in a simple way. So this is my component, as you can see, and with my component I have one file which is .html, which basically represents the view of my component, and view is nothing but my markup, the HTML, whatever things I want to represent on the UI. Then I have my component.ts where I would have the behavior, how I want to show my markup content, and then I have my CSS over here. So if you see that in a component I have a template URL that says that for this component app.component.html, this is my template. So it's simple that for every component, as I was saying, there is an associated template with it. So every component have only one template with it. So as you can see, I have only one here. Then I have the style URLs. Now style URLs is an array, as you can see here, because styles can be multiple associated with respect to any component. Then I have the providers and animations. Now what is this? Providers is a basically, as you can see here from the documentation, configures the injector of this directory or components. Now what is the injector and what is the dependency, that will understand in the topic when I will talk about the dependency injection. But for now, there are a concept called services, and if you have to register those services in your component, you need to provide them in your array. Then the animation, this is a simple one. So in any component, if you have animations used, you need to list them down in your animations array. Okay, now I'll simply create a new component here. So for that I have a command ng generate component. So you don't have to type completely, you can use a short form, and then you have to give the name of your component. So I'll create new component, namely heroes, and that's it. If you just hit enter now, it will create a new component and it will add them in your project structure over here. But I would like to show you few extra things here. So what I will do, I want to specify what module I want to use, and in this case I want to go with a module dot, yeah, I just had to give the dot app dot module, that's it. Then there are other things that also you can do. Like when I create a component, I don't want to have a spec file. Spec file is a file that we use for the test specification, but for now I don't need a test specification. So I can specify that by writing skip test. That's it. So I will show you how this work. For that, I don't want to create an actual file for now. I will show you that if you provide just hyphen dry run, it don't create any files in your project structure, but it show you that if you hit this command, this is what it's going to do. So let me hit enter and let's see what it does. And it is saying that I have a typo here in the skip. So as you can see, it has not created anything here because I provided a dry run here, but it says that when I will execute, I will have a source app, heroes, component HTML, component TS, and the CSS, and it will update my app module. Now, why it update? I'll talk about that in a coming moment. So okay, I can skip the test. What else I can do if I want to have an inline style? So what I can do is inline style, and with that I don't get my CSS file. Suppose I want to only have very few styles I have in my component. I don't want to have a separate file, so I can provide this thing here that I want an inline style and it won't create a CSS file this time. As you can see, I just have HTML and TS. Yeah, I can do a similar if I don't want a components a template there. Actually, you can also provide your components HTML markup content in this template over here. So if you don't want to give that, what you can do is simply type inline. I don't want a template, so I'll give inline template, and with that I don't have my HTML file. I just have only TS file there. As you can see, I have only heroes component TS created and it has updated the app module.ts. Now, this is interesting over here why it is updating the app module.ts. So if I go to app module.ts, that you can see there are a bunch of things like declarations, imports, providers, bootstraps. So now to understand this, we need to understand the thing that there is a relationship between your components and your modules. Your every component needs to belongs to a module so that it can be accessible by another components. So I'll tell you and I'll show you that how it gets accessible, but this is the basic thing that every component needs to belong to an module. Starting from Angular 14 version, there is a new thing introduced which is called a standalone component. So with that, you don't need to declare your components into your ng modules. So that means it doesn't need to belong to any module and still it will run. So yeah, this is the newer thing that we have. So now I want to just simply create this component I will create, and I want to I don't want to have the test cases, but rest I need, so I'll just type and enter, and I have my new component created. And as you can see, it has added a new entry over here, heroes component, from this component in my declaration. So I'll go to the heroes here and I can see there are things over here. So now what I want to do is I want to create a very simple UI here where I will show the list and I want to render it, and for that I have a code over here just for saving the time. And yeah, so I'll get the CSS from here. I'll put it in the CSS. Then I want my markup from the HTML file. I'll put it here. And I don't have any logic or behavior as such for the components, but I want to just simply create one variable where store I want to store this data of my list. So I'll simply put it here, and let me see if it is able to build. Yeah, it's able to build. And let me jump to the UI and refresh, and I don't have anything here, and that's because I have created a component and I have put all the things that I need in component. Like this is my markup where I'm just rendering the list of my variable, namely heroes, and for that I'm using an ng for. This is a directive where you want to repeat a particular template, particular set of tags, you can use that. So that's all I am doing in my component for now. I have specified the CSS, how I want the button color, how much padding, font size, etc. All those things. But as I said, your components belongs to a module, and in order to use that component, it needs to be accessible to another components. And how it becomes accessible is through your selector. So if you see in your metadata inside your component, there is a selector namely app heroes, and I can put it anything that I want. I can rename it whatever I want, and this tells that if I use this selector in the another component which is sharing the common parent module, I'll be able to use it there. So okay, let me go to the app component.html, which belongs to app modules. I will get rid of these things and I will type app heroes, and I have it here now. And let me go back to the UI and see, now I have the list of all these heroes which I put in my heroes component, and that's how you do the things. I just put it in my component, and I just refer that using the selector. Now the beauty of the component is that you can use it across anywhere in your project. It doesn't matter, there is some constraint that you have to follow, that it need to belong to your same module and it will run flawlessly. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I hope this may help you. Thank you.